So, politicians love to tell us that fixing our aging population is just a matter of tweaking a few rules, right? A little nip here, a little tuck there. Well, they're dead wrong. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to tear apart a major macroeconomic study that proves these neat, spreadsheet-based solutions are totally blind to one massive uncontrollable variable: human nature. We need to start with this absolutely terrifying number, 22%. By the year 2050, Italy is projected to lose nearly a quarter of its entire working age population. Just gone. And Germany really isn't far behind. So we're not talking about a temporary dip here. This is a full-blown demographic implosion that's going to completely shatter labor markets and living standards. So how do governments react when they see this panic? Well, they pull out their calculators. They sit there and think, hey, we'll just make everyone work longer. But if you think simply raising the retirement age is going to magically save the economy, well, the spreadsheets are lying to you. Because every single time a government forces a mechanical fix onto a living, breathing population, that population fights back. Which brings us to part one of the problem: Europe's population collapse. If you map out Germany's population back in the year 2000, you see a healthy, thick middle, plenty of workers. But fast forward to the projections for 2050, and the whole thing completely inverts. It becomes entirely top-heavy. You get this massive older generation at the top consuming healthcare and pensions, while a tiny, shrinking base of young workers at the bottom is expected to pay for it all. The math literally just does not work. And the root cause behind this is shockingly simple. People aren't having enough babies. Now, France is barely maintaining its equilibrium, but Germany and Italy, their fertility rates are absolutely plummeting. They are shrinking by a third from generation to generation. And obviously, when a population shrinks by a third, your workforce evaporates. This leads us directly into part two, the realm of naive reform illusions. Faced with this vanishing workforce, policymakers immediately turn to these supposed spreadsheet miracles. On paper, they have 4 fixes that seem perfectly logical. First, raise the retirement age by 2 years. Second, push young people to start jobs 2 years earlier. Third, match female labor participation to men's levels. And fourth, slash unemployment. Boom. Looks like a bulletproof survival plan, right? Well, yeah. If humans were robots, this plan would be absolutely flawless. You just apply those 4 reforms, and suddenly employment numbers magically stabilize. Disaster averted. But reality is about to seriously slap these policymakers in the face. And that brings us to part 3, the insane human backlash. Governments generally assume that forcing more people into the system automatically guarantees more total labor. It doesn't. You can absolutely force people to delay their retirement. You can push them to get jobs. But you cannot force them to work maximum hours if they feel like they're being cheated by high taxes. If you push people harder, they push back. How? By working less. This is exactly what the economic models miss. It's called the reform backlash. Basically, people look at the system, they realize they're being squeezed, and they strategically pull back their effort. They intentionally cut their working hours to protect their quality of life. So human agency completely neutralizes the government policy. Let's walk through how this actually fails in the real world. Step 1, the government forces you to work until you're 67. Step 2, they keep your taxes incredibly high to pay for all the current retirees. Step 3, rational human beings decide to exploit part-time work or just take way longer vacations. And step 4, the total hours worked drops. Your big economic gain is completely wiped out. This backlash even happens right inside the home. The researchers found that if a government successfully pushes a wife into full-time work, the husband might just turn around and cut his own hours. Why? Because households want joint leisure time. They want to manage their lives. You can't just try to double a household's labor without them actively rebalancing their lifestyle to compensate. This triggers a massive conflict in part 4, the pension versus labor war. So on one side, you have the traditional pay-as-you-go pension. This relies on massive, distortive taxes on today's workers. On the other side, you have a fully funded system of private accounts, where your money is actually yours, with zero tax distortions. Now, if you force people to work longer, but you keep that high tax system in place, the backlash is brutal. Those high taxes actively incentivize workers to hide from the system. And this right here is the ultimate reality check for traditional policy. If you try to fix the labor markets without also fixing the pensions, human behavior will absolutely destroy your economic gains. It's like squeezing a balloon, You push down really hard in one spot and it just bulges out in another. Workers are always going to find a way to escape the pressure. Which leads us to part 5, the only ultimate cure. Mathematically speaking, there is really only one way out of this trap. You have to implement all the labor reforms simultaneously. Later retirement, earlier entry, more female participation, lower unemployment. And at the exact same time, you have to switch to fully funded private pensions to kill the human backlash. It means immense, brutal, short-term political pain for long-term survival. If governments refuse to take this extreme approach, the result is totally guaranteed. European living standards will inevitably fall. Now, they won't go back to the dark ages, but they are going to fall way behind the global growth path. They will become relatively poorer compared to younger, more adaptable nations. But hold on, because for part 6, we need to talk about this study's fatal flaw. Even this comprehensive study has some massive academic blind spots. First off, their behavioral math relies on pure guesswork. Second, they entirely ignored the massive unpaid economy of things like cooking, cleaning, and child-rearing. And third, they couldn't even accurately model how a person actually chooses to enter the workforce in the first place. And the crazy part? The authors openly confess to this. They admit their calculations are based on an ad hoc choice of parameters. That is a stunning admission for a major paper. It literally means their models rely on guesses. So, what if people value their home life and free time even more than these researchers guessed? Well, then that human backlash is going to be far, far worse. Now, aging isn't just a European problem. It is a global one. So look at the politicians in your own country. Are they relying on these same naive spreadsheet fixes? Are your country's policies doomed to face this exact same human backlash? Really think about that the next time someone promises you a simple solution. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep questioning the spreadsheets.